The story begins in the aftermath of the Cold War. Once the tension between Russia and the United States had ended, both nations tried to maintain peace by cooperating in various fields. One such remarkable collaboration was the creation of an international space station, where astronauts and scientists from both countries worked together for research and exploration. Among the American astronauts was Kira Christian, who had just arrived at the station. At the station, Kira met the already present American astronaut Gordon, along with 3 Russian astronauts, Nikolai, Alexei, and Veronica. Despite their countries' histories as bitter rivals, the astronauts managed to live and work together in relative harmony. In fact, Gordon and Veronica, one of the Russian astronauts, even shared a romantic relationship, proving that personal bonds could rise above political boundaries. Gordon personally showed Kira around the workplace. He introduced her to the control systems and even gave her a key to the American locker section, where she could store her private belongings. Here, there was an interesting system of trust and transparency. Each country's astronauts could view their own section freely. But if an American astronaut wanted to access a Russian locker, they had to exchange keys with their Russian counterparts, and vice versa. This was meant to encourage accountability and cooperation. Later, Gordon guided Kira to an alert system. He explained how the blinking lights and alarm sounds indicated that everything was functioning properly. However, if the sound ever failed while the light blinked, it meant there was a malfunction. Kira spent her first day trying to understand these systems, slowly familiarizing herself with her responsibilities. Near her workstation was Alexei, who also worked diligently on his own assignments. That night, during dinner, Christian, the other American astronaut, shared drinks he had brought from Earth with everyone. It was a moment of bonding and relief after a long day. After dinner, the astronauts took Kira and Christian to a windowed observation area where they could admire the breathtaking view of Earth from space. The sheer beauty left them in awe, creating a sense of unity among the crew. The next day, however, problems began to arise. While all the astronauts were busy with their respective tasks, Christian faced difficulties in establishing contact with Earth. At the same time, Kira discovered something unsettling. She had placed lab mice in a compartment for her research, but instead of living peacefully, the mice were killing each other. She couldn't understand why this was happening. As the crew turned their attention toward Earth, they noticed explosions occurring on the planet's surface. Shocked, they attempted to contact their respective governments to learn what was happening, but communication lines remained down. After a while, Gordon and Nikolai finally managed to receive fragmented information from their respective headquarters. What they learned was chilling. War had broken out between the United States and Russia on Earth. Both countries had simultaneously issued new, dangerous orders. They instructed their astronauts to eliminate the opposing nation's crew members aboard the space station and seize control of it for their own country's benefit. This revelation horrified Gordon. He quickly informed Kira and Christian of the grim news, but the group held off on making any hasty decisions. Before they could even process the situation, the station's power suddenly failed. The lights went out, throwing everyone into panic. Veronica quickly examined the systems and discovered that the space station had suffered a critical malfunction. Because of this, the station was being pulled toward Earth's orbit. If it continued at such high speed and heat, it would inevitably burn up and be destroyed upon re-entry. The astronauts knew their survival depended on immediate help from Earth. Veronica began sending messages and waited desperately for a reply, though she wasn't sure if anyone on Earth would respond amidst the chaos of war. In the meantime, the crew remembered the rocket that Kira and Christian had used to arrive at the station. But the escape pod had one fatal limitation. It could only carry 2 people at most. This created a massive conflict among the crew. If only 2 could survive, who would those 2 be? Arguments flared, and tensions escalated. Amid this chaos, Alexei suggested that someone needed to step outside the station to resolve the outer technical problems. Christian immediately suspected that Alexei was setting a trap, but Gordon decided to trust him and volunteered to go outside. Equipped with his spacesuit, Gordon floated out into the cold void of space. From out there, he saw horrifying scenes of massive explosions continuing across Earth's surface. Inside, Kira monitored Gordon and guided him through his repairs. Meanwhile, Christian and Alexei got into a heated argument, their distrust of one another boiling over. Christian eventually stormed away, while Alexei secretly cut a wire in one of the panels and replaced it with a fake one, setting up a dangerous sabotage. Moments later, Gordon lost communication with the team. Christian grew suspicious of Alexei, believing he might have caused the issue. But when he checked the panel, the wiring appeared normal, removing his doubts temporarily. Outside, Gordon discovered that the antenna was functioning perfectly. That's when he realized he had been tricked into going outside. As Gordon tried to re-enter the station, Nikolai shockingly refused to let him in. Instead of pulling him back, Nikolai forcefully pushed him away, leaving him drifting helplessly in space. Inside the station, Kira and Veronica desperately tried to re-establish contact with Gordon, but their attempts failed. From one of the windows, Christian spotted Gordon floating farther and farther away into the dark void. The crew tried to use the tether rope connected to the station to pull Gordon back, but to their horror, the rope had already detached. Gordon was now completely untethered, lost in space, and the chances of saving him seemed slim. Kira, heartbroken, returned to her quarters and wept for him. Christian consoled her, trying to give her some strength, but the grief weighed heavily on her. Meanwhile, Veronica confronted Alexei, realizing that her own team had orchestrated this betrayal. Alexei insisted that when he cut the wire, he hadn't known Nikolai would use the opportunity to abandon Gordon. Overcome with guilt and fury, Veronica retreated to her quarters and broke down in tears. The love of her life, Gordon, was now gone, and there was nothing she could do. Soon after, Veronica approached Kira to ask for her locker key. But Kira, suspicious, refused. In this tense moment, both women shared the truth. They admitted that their governments had ordered them to kill each other. Veronica also revealed that Gordon being sent outside had been part of Nikolai and Alexei's treachery. Veronica then swore that she personally would not harm Kira or Christian. Instead, she confessed she needed access to Alexei's research samples, hidden in the Russian locker. These samples contained crucial data about radiation poisoning, something that could potentially save lives on Earth. Veronica proposed that she and Kira could secretly take those samples and escape together. Kira, though hesitant, eventually agreed to help. The two exchanged locker keys in good faith. Veronica explained that the samples could be found inside a locker labeled Not Zero. With their plan in place, Veronica armed herself with a flare gun, increased the oxygen levels, and threatened to set the station on fire if anyone tried to stop her. As chaos unfolded, Kira made her way toward the Russian lockers. But when she arrived, she was shocked to find Christian already there. She told him about the plan and asked about the mysterious Not Zero locker. To her shock, Christian claimed that no such locker even existed. This revelation planted doubt in Kira's mind. Had Veronica been lying to her all along? Was this entire plan just a manipulation? Hearing Christian's words, Kira was left confused and shaken. If there really was no Not Zero locker, then had Veronica tricked her? Fueled with anger and betrayal, Kira stormed back toward Veronica. Christian followed close behind, not wanting to miss what would unfold. When Kira confronted her, Veronica stood her ground, still holding the flare gun. But before she could escalate the threat, Christian suddenly struck her on the head with brutal force. His intention, as he would later claim, was only to knock her unconscious. But the blow turned out to be fatal. Veronica collapsed instantly and died right there in the compartment. Kira was horrified. She accused Christian of going too far, but he insisted it had been an accident. Regardless, the damage was done. Nikolai and Alexei were enraged when they learned of Veronica's death. Though they carried her body back to their quarters, the tension aboard the station was now unbearable. Trust was broken beyond repair. Nikolai soon declared that he would follow his government's orders. He decided that Kira and Christian had to die. He prepared to hunt them down, while the two Americans locked themselves in a compartment, hoping to avoid a direct confrontation. But inside his own mind, Nikolai was tormented. He didn't truly want to kill anyone. To numb his pain, he drowned himself in alcohol. While drinking, he absent-mindedly glanced at a nearby computer screen. His eyes widened when he saw external footage of Gordon, still alive, still floating helplessly outside the station. Against everyone's expectations, Alexei made a bold move. Using the robotic arm of the station, he carefully extended it out into space. With great difficulty, he managed to grab hold of Gordon and pull him back inside. At last, Gordon was brought to safety, though he was exhausted and barely conscious. Meanwhile, Nikolai was closing in on Christian and Kira. Christian tried to slow him down by throwing objects in his path, while Kira attempted to flee. In the chaos, Kira collided with Alexei. To her surprise, Alexei swore he had no intention of harming her. Instead, he led her to a safe hiding place. For the first time, Kira saw that Alexei, unlike Nikolai, wasn't blindly following orders. But Christian wasn't so lucky. Nikolai cornered him, pinning him down and preparing to kill him. Alexei rushed in, desperately trying to intervene. But Nikolai, consumed by his mission and anger, lashed out even at his own comrade. In the struggle, he nearly killed Alexei and resumed his assault on Christian. At the last possible moment, Kira arrived and struck Nikolai to save Christian. But Nikolai retaliated, shoving her aside violently. Just as Nikolai was about to deliver a final killing blow, Gordon, weak but alive, appeared. With what little strength he had, Gordon attacked Nikolai from behind, driving a drill into his skull. The brutal blow left Nikolai unconscious. But the fight didn't end there. When Gordon learned about Veronica's death, his grief and rage consumed him. Even though Nikolai was already subdued, Gordon reignited the fight. The two men battled viciously in another compartment, each determined to finish the other. Nikolai grabbed a heavy drill and stabbed Gordon in the stomach, leaving him mortally wounded. But in his final moments of strength, Gordon rammed a screwdriver into Nikolai, killing him. Both men collapsed, lifeless, side by side. With Gordon and Nikolai dead, only Kira, Christian, and Alexei remained. Shaken but determined to survive, Kira inspected the station. What she discovered left her unsettled. The space station had descended even further into Earth's orbit, bringing it dangerously close to destruction. As she wandered, her eyes caught something unexpected. She spotted a Japanese workstation with a locker marked, "Not Zero." Kira froze. Veronica had been telling the truth all along. The locker did exist, which meant Christian had lied to her, manipulating her into turning against Veronica. The realization hit hard. Christian had been playing his own game from the start. Determined to uncover the truth, Kira searched Christian's compartment. There, she found everything: research samples, equipment, even space suits neatly packed and ready for escape. It became clear that Christian had been planning to leave on his own, taking all the valuable samples with him. Worse, he had deliberately turned Kira against Veronica and killed her to secure his plan. Christian then sabotaged the station's life support systems, creating a scenario where Kira and Alexei would be forced to rely on him, or die. He even tried to turn Alexei against Kira, planting seeds of doubt. But Kira, sensing the danger, approached Alexei carefully. She asked him to turn off his music player. When he did, they both immediately heard the irregular hum of the failing system. She signaled him silently, warning that Christian was behind the sabotage. Christian, realizing they were onto him, invited Kira to speak with him alone. But Alexei refused to leave her side. This defiance enraged Christian. He lunged forward, attacking Kira violently. Alexei rushed to her defense, and together they fought back. In the end, Alexei overpowered Christian, killing him before he could do further damage. With the greatest threat eliminated, Kira and Alexei worked quickly to repair the life support systems. It was a difficult task, but eventually they succeeded. Soon after, communication with Earth was restored. A message came through. Rescue was on its way. For the first time in days, hope returned to the survivors. Kira checked her experiment compartment again and smiled. Alexei had solved the issue with the mice by building smaller, separate cages for each one, preventing them from killing each other. It was a small but symbolic victory, proof that cooperation, not conflict, was the way to survive. Before they could relax, another message arrived from Earth's government. It coldly asked whether the survivors had followed orders and eliminated their enemies. Kira and Alexei looked at each other, realizing what their answer meant. Silently, they decided not to respond at all. With the samples, research papers, and their lives intact, Kira and Alexei boarded the small rocket. As they descended toward Earth, they looked out the window and saw the planet below. Instead of the thriving world they once knew, it was a landscape of devastation, massive explosions, destruction, and uncertainty everywhere. Alexei turned to Kira with a haunting question. "Do you think we'll even be safe on Earth?" Kira couldn't bring herself to answer. Her silence spoke louder than words. The rocket descended further, carrying the survivors toward an unknown and uncertain future. And with that, the movie ends.